You're listening to Between Sundays, a podcast by the church, for the church, about the church. I'm your host, Alyssa Pobletti, and I'm sitting here with Pastor Rick.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Alyssa.
Hello. I think by now you guys know our names,
Yeah.
but
We'll just keep doing that. You never know.
You
New
never
listeners,
know.
all that kind of thing. Yeah.
So today we're talking about one of our core values, which is making disciples. And we're going to explore not only what that means, but why is that such a high value for us as a church, and also the reality that we're all called to make disciples. So just to start off, Pastor Rick, what do we mean by making disciples?
Yeah.
Why does it matter?
Well, I think in short, making disciples is just making people follow Jesus. Right? I mean, disciple means student or apprentice, comes from the Greek mathetes, which literally means apprentice. And so helping people to mimic, follow, replicate Jesus Christ. That's what we're about. That's what we want to be. I think this is one of the values that help us as a church stay on mission, without which churches can easily devolve into like just a social religious club.
Right.
So this value keeps us on mission, that we don't exist for ourselves. We exist for the people that God is calling to himself to make them disciples.
Yeah. So Jesus' final words to his disciples was, go and make disciples. I think sometimes people expect that work is for pastors and missionaries and people who work in ministry vocationally.
Yeah.
But that's not the reality, correct?
That's right. No. Yeah. I mean, it's not only are people way too diverse for any one or two or a handful of individuals to be able to reach them, even if that were possible and you had some gifted people who could relate to everyone, just practically, there wouldn't be the time.
Right.
So it requires all of us to reach all of us. And that is, in fact, God's plan, that they would be everyone doing that work.
Yeah.
You think of even in Paul's strategy, that's what he talked to Timothy about. And while, yes, Timothy was a young protege, Paul says in 2 Timothy 2:2, the things you've learned from me, so one generation to two generation, teach to other men, third generation, who can then teach to other men, fourth generation. And it's not very clear at all that Paul had in mind these are staff, elder, paid position pastors. They're just people in the church.
Right.
And so that's what discipleship requires, all of us to reach all of us, because everyone's so diverse and different.
Right.
Yeah.
So being in South Orange County, we live in a culture that is very busy, very chaotic, overcommitted. What does actual discipleship look like in the life of an everyday believer?
Yeah, I think that's the key. It's every day. Inviting people. And if you're just too busy, but the thing is, it's not another layer of stuff we do. It's just who we are. Invite someone over to do yard work with you and talk with them, or invite them to come over, work on your car, or in my case, on your motorcycle, and just talk about, invite them to go grocery shopping, come over as you cook dinner and have them sit with you as you guys have dinner and put the kids to bed, have them watch you be a parent, a husband, a father, doing life together.
Right.
That's what discipleship is. It doesn't have to be another thing you've got to add on to a busy schedule. Just invite people along with you in your daily life, and that's how you're discipling them.
Yeah.
And when you read the Gospels, more often than not, you rarely see the setting where Jesus is sitting down and giving official instruction to his disciples, right? And I think a lot of times people have in their mind discipleship is meeting with somebody once a week, reading a book.
Right.
That's true. That's a part of it. But more often than not, you see in the Gospels, the disciples were just hanging out with Jesus.
Yeah.
They were what they say, like godliness is caught as much as taught. And so I would say to the person who's super busy, they probably think, okay, this is another thing I got to end in my life. Probably just bringing people into your life. That's what discipleship is.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have a multitude of resources to grow in our faith. There's podcasts, there's books, there's courses.
Yeah.
Why is the local church the primary place for discipleship to happen?
Oh, yeah. 2 words can answer that. Embodied truth.
What do you mean by that?
Embodied truth. Books, podcasts, those kinds of things can teach you about truth, but you need to see truth lived out.
Right.
Paul says to Timothy, I think it's 1 Timothy 4:16 or 17, watch your life and your teaching. And so it's your doctrine and the way you live, and both those intersect at a church.
Yeah.
Books can teach you about grace, but they can't show you what it's like to live under the pressures and demands of everyday life. Conferences can talk to you about faithfulness, but nothing like sitting around saints who've been following the Lord for 50 years.
Yeah.
Right. So all those things take on new life form and shape in a local church. So you can learn all that stuff. And again, if that's all you have, you can tend to think Christianity is I just know more stuff. But that is not Christianity. Christianity is that's part of it. But discipleship is not just my cognitions, my intellect. It's also my emotions, bringing those to the submission of Christ. It's also my choices, my actions, my schedule, bringing those into the submission of Christ. And you learn those best not through books or conferences or podcasts, like even this one, although we hope that it inspires and encourages. A podcast can't weep with you, laugh with you, rejoice with you.
No.
People in local churches do those things with you.
Right.
And that's why discipleship happens best in a local church, because it's relational, embodied truth.
So how would you encourage someone who has a desire to be discipled? How do they pursue that?
I would say this: join a church. And what I mean by that is become a member of that church. And what I mean by that is take responsibility for that congregation.
Yeah.
If your church has a covenant, read that covenant and ask yourself, how do I live this out with the people I'm doing life with every week in my church?
Yeah.
Meet with somebody. I mean, I always say you could throw a rock into our sanctuary and it'll hit somebody who needs to be discipled. Just grab anybody and say, hey, let's read the Gospel of Mark together once a week.
Yeah.
As a very basic thing. Talk about, as you're heading to the donut table, don't ask what donut are you going to grab. Say, hey, what did you learn from the sermon this morning?
Yeah.
How did you get encouraged? Did you get convicted of sin? There's always simple ways. It's not, like I said, it's not another layer. It's just doing what we already do with a little bit of difference.
Yeah.
One classic example is I say, hey, when you walk into church, don't go on autopilot and go to your reserve seating, right? So Christians have like reserve ticket seating for the seats in their church. They always at the same spot. Walk into the sanctuary and ask the Lord, who should I sit to this morning? Who can I be a blessing to? And look around the sanctuary as somebody that might need encouragement or somebody that's new or looks like they feel out of place, and just sit next to them. And then, so discipleship is easily brought into everything, every part of your life. You just have to be intentional about it.
I love that.
You know?
Yeah. What would you say to somebody who feels intimidated at the thought of discipling someone else, who feels like they're ill-equipped?
Yeah. I can understand that impulse. But B, discipleship, I mean, in some ways, we're all beggars telling other beggars where to get food. Yeah. Right? So like if you've been a Christian for a year, you can disciple somebody. Just find someone who got saved last week and just tell them, share with them what you learned in that year that they don't know. And that's how it goes, rinse and repeat. Yeah. So again, it doesn't require a lot. It requires just intentionality. Yeah. Even something simple like go to the same Starbucks in your neighborhood, go to the same time. Because there's a good chance it's the same people. Start building relationships, start being a witness for Christ. Even that kind of action can be discipleship because you're being intentional, hoping to show others how you follow Jesus, and maybe they'll follow you as you follow Jesus. Right. Yeah. So I'm curious, Pastor Rick, who discipled you? I would say, well, they're John and Peggy Migliaro were really significant. They brought in a bunch of us kind of non-Christian kids who didn't come from any Christian background, and they poured into us. That group of friends of mine, we discipled each other because we didn't know any other Christians. And then that same group of friends, we planted a church in Hope Chapel, Mililani. And God was kind enough to bring some mature saints that all of us young kids could watch their lives. And they invited us into their homes and their hearts. And we learned to be dads and husbands. And so from my earliest days, discipleship was people pouring into me, me pouring into others, and serving and leading. And I think that's really shaped the way I see discipleship. Yeah. You know, it's just a very organic as you're doing life, but yet being very intentional about how you're doing life. Yeah. One of the things I love about our church is how multi-generational it is. So we are not at a lack of both people to disciple us and people to disciple, which I think is really, really special. Yeah. I always tell the young couples that I'm doing premarital counseling with, as they get married and as they're going into their marriage, don't ever think that they need to go spend $150 a week in marriage therapy. There are couples in our church been married for 30, 40 years. Take them out for lunch once a week, sit at their feet and learn. Yeah. You know? Ooh. Yeah.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. If somebody has a desire to disciple others and what would be like a practical next step?
Yeah, well, like I said, just do that in the context of a local church. Keep your eyes open and your eyes and ears open. Look for that person that maybe the great thing about churches is that we become great tight-knit communities. The downside of that is so it's easy to be on the outside.
Right.
So if you want to disciple someone, look for the person who often is wandering around the church. I always say, look for the person that's looking at the literature at a church intensely, because either they're trying to hide and they're hiding themselves in that, or they don't know anyone.
Right.
Either case, that's a great person to come alongside and say, hey, can we follow Jesus together?
Yeah. I love that.
Simple as that.
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. We have one more for this season, which is one of our core values, which is building the church. Until then, we'll see you next time.